Back in the early 1800s, America didn't have 50 states. It started with just 13, and it kept growing. Every few years, a new chunk of land would ask to become a state, and every time that happened, the same terrifying question came up. Will this new state allow slavery or ban it? See, America had a government called Congress where every state got a vote. In 1820, there were exactly 11 states that allowed slavery and 11 that didn't. Perfect tie. If one new state picked a side, that side would have more votes and could start making the rules for everybody. That's when a territory called Missouri said it wanted to join, and Congress lost its mind. Politicians screamed at each other for 2 whole years. Thomas Jefferson, one of the guys who helped build America, was an old man by now. He said the Missouri fight scared him like a fire bell ringing in the night. Then a smooth-talking politician named Henry Clay walked in with a deal.
No more slave states! It stops here!
You can't tell us what to do? Boys, what if Missouri gets slavery, but we also let Maine join as a free state? Stays balanced. Then we draw a line across the map. Above the line, no slavery allowed. I guess that works.
I hate it, but fine.
They called it the Missouri Compromise, and Congress celebrated like heroes. A few weeks later, a school teacher in Virginia tries to explain the compromise to her class. She unrolls a big map and draws the new line with chalk. A kid in the back raises his hand and says,
"Ma'am, what happens when they run out of room above the line?"
She stares at him, then at the map, and then she quietly rolls it back up and changes the subject. That kid asked the one question nobody wanted to think about, but they hadn't fixed the problem. They just delayed it, and the two halves of America were turning into completely different worlds. The compromise was holding, no more fights in Congress, but underneath the surface, America was quietly splitting in two. And once you see the numbers, you're gonna understand why this was always going to explode. By the 1850s, the North and South barely looked like they belonged together. Look at the map. See all that green farmland across the South? Cotton fields stretching to the horizon. About 84% of Southerners worked on farms, and the whole economy ran on the backs of enslaved people. Now look north. Factories on every corner, railroad tracks crisscrossing entire states, cities swelling with millions of immigrants arriving from Europe. The North produced 32 times more firearms than the South. If this were a video game, one side was upgrading to rocket launchers, while the other was still using slingshots. I just got a machine that makes cloth ridiculously fast. Want one? No, machines break down too much. So how do you make your money down there? Cotton, mountains of it. With machines?
With people.
You pay people to pick it?
Well, not exactly pay.
These two halves needed completely different things from their government. The North wanted taxes on foreign goods. That way people would buy stuff from their factories instead. The South wanted those taxes kept low so they could sell cotton overseas and buy cheap European goods. Every single issue pushed them further apart. Meanwhile, in Congress, a southern cotton farmer and a northern factory owner are sitting next to each other trying to agree on anything. The farmer wants the government to leave him alone, the factory owner wants government money for railroads. They can't even agree on what time lunch should be. Two different worlds shoved under one roof. And the argument about to blow that roof wide open was heading straight for a little territory out west. Remember that line they drew across the map? The one that was supposed to keep the peace? Well, America kept grabbing new land out west, and every time it did, the same ugly fight would come back. Should slavery be allowed there? Whoever controlled the new territories would control the future of the whole country. So, in 1854, Congress came up with a new idea. Instead of drawing lines, let the people living in each territory vote for themselves. Sounds fair, right? Except, both sides immediately started cheating. The territory of Kansas was up first. Pro-slavery families rushed across the border from Missouri to stuff the vote. Anti-slavery families flooded in from north to do the same, and Kansas turned into a chess match where nobody followed the rules.
I'm here to make Kansas a free territory.
Funny, I'm here to make it a slave territory.
Where are you even from?
Missouri, just crossed the border this morning.
You can't just show up and vote. You don't even live here.
I do now. See that tent? That's my house.
That's a bed sheet on a stick.
It's called rustic charm. Kansas ended up with two separate governments, one pro-slavery, one anti-slavery, both claiming to be in charge. Then the voting stopped and the shooting started. They called it Bleeding Kansas, and it earned that name fast. Mobs burned down whole towns. Armed gangs raided farms in the middle of the night. One man named John Brown, a guy who believed slavery was evil and had to be destroyed by force, showed up with a wagon full of swords and led violent raids against pro-slavery settlers. Over 50 people died. Americans were already killing each other over slavery, and the actual Civil War hadn't even started yet. All it would take now was one election to light the fuse. If you're enjoying this, subscribe, because from here on out, nobody makes good decisions. November 1860. America was about to hold the most dangerous election in its history. The country was so divided that even the political parties had split apart. The Democratic Party, which used to be one big group, cracked right down the middle. Northern Democrats picked one candidate, Southern Democrats picked a different one. A third party showed up with yet another guy. And then there were the Republicans. This was a brand new party, only about 6 years old, built specifically to stop slavery from spreading. Their candidate was a tall, lanky lawyer from Illinois named Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln's message was simple: slavery should not spread into new territories. He didn't say he'd end it where it already existed, he just said it shouldn't grow. But to the South, that sounded like the beginning of the end. People today get this wrong. This war wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights, about who gets to decide how we live. Here's the wild part. Lincoln wasn't even on the ballot in 10 southern states. His name literally did not appear on the voting paper. You couldn't vote for him even if you wanted to. If that Lincoln fellow wins, I'm done with this country.
He said he won't touch slavery where it exists.
And you believe a politician?
Okay, but what are you gonna actually do about it? Leave?
Watch me.
You can't just leave a country.
Pretty sure we're about to find out. Down in South Carolina, a newspaper editor reads the election results by candlelight. He counts the numbers twice, then a third time. He puts the paper down, walks outside, and starts ringing the church bell at 2 in the morning. His neighbor storms out in a nightgown yelling, "What are you doing?" The editor holds up the newspaper and says, "Lincoln won! Start packing!" Lincoln won without a single Southern vote. For the first time ever, a president was elected without any support from an entire region of the country. Southern leaders looked at the results and realized they'd lost control of the government. Maybe permanently. The talking was over, and within weeks, states started walking out the door. South Carolina didn't even wait for Lincoln to take office. 6 weeks after the election, on December 20th, 1860, they voted to leave the United States. Their reason? They believed Lincoln would eventually destroy slavery, and slavery was the foundation of their entire way of life. No negotiation, no compromise, just goodbye. Then the dominoes started falling. Mississippi left, Florida left, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, all gone within weeks. 7 states vanished from the Union. And they didn't just leave, they built a whole new country. They called it the Confederate States of America. Basically their own version of the United States, with its own president, its own flag, and its own army. They picked a former senator from Mississippi named Jefferson Davis to run it. Mr. President, we left the Union. Now what? First, we need a flag. Can't be a country without a flag. Done. What else? An army. Working on it. There's a problem. What now? There are Union soldiers just sitting in our harbors, eating lunch like nothing happened. Oh, that's awkward. Very. Should we ask them to leave? Politely? And if they don't leave politely, we ask them less politely. Meanwhile, on a small farm in Virginia, 2 brothers are sitting on a porch staring at a newspaper. The older one folds it carefully and says he's heading south to join the Confederacy. The younger one says he's staying loyal to the Union. Their mother walks out holding 2 packed lunches, looks at both of them, and doesn't know which son to hand them to. She leaves both lunches on the railing and goes back inside without a word. Across the South, scenes like this played out in thousands of homes. Cousins stopped talking, childhood friends picked opposite sides, entire churches split down the middle. But the Confederacy had one stubborn problem it couldn't ignore: a federal fort sitting in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. Its name was Fort Sumter, and the soldiers inside had no plans to leave. Lincoln showed up for his first day as president on March 4th, 1861, and immediately got the worst possible news. The commander at Fort Sumter, that Union fort sitting right in the middle of Confederate territory, sent an urgent message. We're running out of food. No supplies means the soldiers starve within weeks.